I did a video a couple days ago, and I took this can and I changed some energy. Now, it's real simple. Let's just talk about the setup a little bit. I basically just took a Tesla coil here. I took it, ran it right through my Rodin coil right here. Pretty simple. I ran it to this can right here. Now I got different wrappings on it and stuff like that. Then I ran it to this full bridge rectifier and this cap. Now, the goal of the experiment was not to see how much amperage is flowing through it at one time. I just wanted to know that it was going to create amps. So, let's understand why. My Tesla coil is a simple device. It's an air core transformer, and it puts out high frequency, high voltage. Now, when I put a rod right down the center, what am I doing? I'm inverting a field. Taking my dielectric field and I'm moving it to the inside. Now I can defeat Lenz's law. It's important to make that distinction for you because most people, when they've been commenting, they comment on the radiant field coming from my Tesla coil this way. If this was a light and I went to light it this way, all their comments would make all the sense in the world. I put the rod down the center. I'm inverting the field. I have now taken the heat out of the circuit. So why would you want to take the heat out of the circuit if you want to make amps on the other end? Well, because the next device that we put into is our Rodin coil. I'm looking to saturate this Rodin coil without loss of energy. So from my power source to my Rodin coil, I'm at very little loss, 2, maybe 5% loss at it. But when this saturates, now I can start to multiply. You see, as long as the Rodin coil is saturated, now I can run as many things off of it as I want, as long as I do not violate that saturation. This can. I can now keep adding them until the saturation level goes down. Then I have to stop and go back to where it was when it was saturated. That means I'm putting a multiplier in my system. You see, energy from the Tesla coil, we put it in there cold. We do not get hysteresis. We do not get the heat dissipation that loses our energy. Now, because we created a radiant field in this device right here, now we can start to multiply. See, it was just important the fact that I was getting amps in that other test. Now it's time to start to learn. This can, what did it do? Now this is just a very, very poor example, but it tells you a story. You see, you put in the energy in this coil. This coil here is simple. It's just bent wire, just like this. You bend it in a loop, take it, and you spin it around it, just like that. What does that do? It creates heat and amperage. You see, for those of you who do not understand this process, heat equals amps. When you do it and you create something like this, you're going to create a lot of heat. When you create a lot of heat, you're going to create a lot of amperage because you're taking the frequency of your high voltage and you're bringing that frequency down. So now it goes down where the amperage field goes up. Now we have usable energy again. It is the step down in order to get through this. This is a step down into the cap again. Now, we know the Rodin coil is a multiplier, right? Here's the thing you may not understand about this. I'm going to take this in later experiments and make this can the multiplier. We have aluminum. Pretty simple. We have it in an almost completely enclosed environment. Except for the opening right here, it's enclosed. What am I attempting to do here? I'm trying to take a radiant energy, which by nature just goes out into a field and stays there in a big, gigantic field. I'm going to compress it like gas and put it inside of a tube. Now, that means that I need to find a material on the outside that's going to work with that in order to hold in that field. And so far, everything I've run into, it keeps blasting it out, except mineral oil. It's not letting that field grow. So what do I want to do? Create a tube, put another tube on the outside of that, fill in between that with mineral oil. On the caps, the same way. I am simply looking to contain it. As I contain that energy, my hope is that by containing it, I force it together and I force that energy to grow even larger in there. You say, well, why would you want to do that? You already multiplied it through your rodent coil. Well, it's a simple understanding. You see, it goes in cold. I want it to come out hot. So if I create different levels on this can, like here, 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 and here, I can run a trigger voltage into it. Now I can have it cold all the time so my system is not taking losses. Then I can hit a trigger and hit it so that it now heats up automatically and produces amps to go through. You see, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at an Edwin Gray patent. In that, he took this gray tube and he made these different fields. He created a trigger switch in it. High voltage DC out of a DC flyback can switch the field from cold to hot. You see, now I have amperage on demand. That's what he was trying to do when he runs his regular motor from it. But then as it's running, it's pulling back energy from it as it's rotating all the time. You see, one of the misunderstandings about cold energy is you don't just create it by running magnets around and have coils. No, 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 no. You have to create a small voltage to flip the field. You have to take that dielectric and put it inside your magnetic field in order to defeat Lenz's law. When you do that, you get all of the energy, but you get none of the resistance. So in that motor, you're going to be able to have a generator that's twice as efficient. Now you can come back and flip fields again and produce it into hot energy being ready to be used. Now, the gray tube is an amplifier. It is a complete amplifier to the system because the amount you're going to get from the engine is not going to be enough. You need to multiply that. That's not hard to understand. We're simply taking different fields, putting them together, make them combine into a DC voltage to run a motor. Then we get it back. So, that's the understanding of the Edwin Gray motor. This is why I'm working this way towards this. So, let's go back to this can. Because I get a lot of people that just don't understand it. Why would I use a Tesla coil? I could just take the power source that's better, right? I get a lot of people that tell me that. Because it's not. It's not going to be in the end. You cannot take one example of something and try to extrapolate everything else from it if you don't understand why I'm multiplying things to get it to grow bigger. You already, in what you say, took out one of my multipliers right here. You already didn't understand. You didn't understand I had a multiplier here. You didn't understand I can make this into a multiplier here. This right here, I didn't even put a light on it. I didn't pull the amps to it. It was being pushed into it. You see, we have a misunderstanding of how things work. If I took this and I put a light on this end, I can pull everything through it. The speed in which it pulls it through would be 10 times faster than what I did. By changing these diodes from this configuration to a high voltage, high frequency diode setup, much faster. pulls through. Wasn't ready to do that. This cap right here was simply to pull the energy in to make sure that we were creating amps out of the field. That's it. That's all we had to do. That was the test. Can I take this setup and can I create amps in this? The answer was conclusively yes, I can. Now, in order to get that to run motors and everything, it has to be consistent and you have to be able to trap the energy in something. We're going to put it into a cap bank. So now we've created the energy, we have the system running, I have it in a cap bank. Now, at that point, I can work on the switch. The switch should go from regular voltage to my Tesla coil to the energy I'm producing in my caps. The first step to over unity is creating unity. That's what we'll have to do. Again, this is a process. This is each individual step. If I created this device and just showed you over unity, you would not understand it in any way possible. Edwin Gray motor has been out there for a long time, and no one really understands it. Trying to break down process after process in order to do it. Bypass switch is important. Okay, how are you going to stop the voltage here and keep the train running, okay, without turning something off first? So we've got to have a bypass in there. Got to work on that. Not a problem. But when we get to the tube itself, let's go ahead and take a look. I want to take this tube here, create my rod. I want an outer lining. I want another one. I want another one. And then I want my breaker one. This one out here is where the mineral oil goes. I'm now shoving everything inside. Okay, I'm compressing that gas, or not gas itself, excuse me, electricity, but I want to compress it like gas like Tesla told you to. Now, I have my radiant energy here, it goes out. But it saturates through all of it. What do I want to do? I'm going to create right there, high voltage, DC, high voltage DC flyback. Why? Because this energy that comes out of right here interacts with the energy that's going in here, which now makes the trigger from cold to hot. You see, I don't have to wrap cans like this. I don't have to put this wire on the outside. I don't have to run this wire this way. I simply have to trigger the field. This is why that gray tube's so important. This is my trigger. Right there, as soon as it is on, it's now hot. But when it's off, it's now cold. You see, the cold energy stops you from wasting your heat, which wastes your amps, which wastes voltage in your system. Everything is combined. You're going to lose it in heat. In cold, I'm going to hold it steady. I don't want huge losses. I can't afford it. I need to keep it cold, which basically is this, guys. When I say cold energy, sorry, I am looking at this. Room temperature and under by 20 degrees. That's it. Now, could it be from 0 to 20? Yeah. Anywhere from 0 to 20 from this number is all I want. I just need it to go down. That's cold. I don't need it to be freezing. I don't need to put a refrigerator on it. I do not need to blast this thing with some other kind of stuff to freeze it. I just need to be room temperature and below. That's as simple as it gets. That's all cold voltage is. I just don't need the loss from the heat. Heat equals loss. I do not want this in any way. That's why I don't use the radiant energy from the outside of my Tesla coil, because heat is loss. It creates heat. Now, room temperature and below is cold energy. That's it. You know why they call it negative energy? I have a battery here, positive and negative. Normally, when I go to run a light bulb, this is my flow direction. Coming out of my positive, I'm forcing it into my light bulb here, and bringing it back to here. That right there is positive energy. You're pushing it through. In cold energy circuits, this is the direction you go. I'm going to pull this energy through this light bulb, and as it goes back to my positive, it's going to a draw. I'm drawing the energy with the light bulb through the circuit. That's cold energy. Now, what do you not see in a cold energy circuit ever? You cannot find a resistor in a cold energy circuit. Why? Resistor the resistor equals heat. The heat loses power. We don't want that in cold energy. We want that circuit to be at room temperature and below. We do not want a loss. One of the main problems with everybody who looks at circuits was that simple example. You can't figure out cold energy because you keep running it through the positive side to the negative, instead of running it to the negative to the positive. That's why you can't figure it out. All cold energy circuits that are over unity, which they are, always go from negative to positive. And what you're going to find in there is this. A lot of that. What is that? Which means you have coils, which you're able to transfer energy from one to the next. They're really efficient at it because you're looking at radiant energy. Now, I want to make this perfectly clear to everybody out there. I am in no way, not one little bit, not even a tiny bit, connected to the number 2 coil of this Tesla coil. All your understanding of the hot energy from that right there, take it and get rid of it. I don't use any of it. That's one of the things that I get that's most misunderstood about what I'm doing. You see, if I started out with hot energy, I'm at a loss. I'm already losing the game. I might as well give it up. I have Todd tell me all the time about this. Well, I'm not going to lose the energy because I'm not going to create it the way you want me to. As a matter of fact, I'm going to lower the voltage on my Tesla coil. Here's what people who deal with this do not understand. They continuously think that you need this high energy field in order to create this stuff. I just don't. You see, negative radiant energy is so much more powerful than positive because there's no losses in it. So, I no longer have a problem here. I take my Tesla coil, I run the rod down the center. I'm trying to take this, get rid of it. I don't want it. I don't want any of that. So I need to lower the voltage. And the amps. All of it has to go lower. All of it. All of it has to go lower. On this number one coil right here. Right here, this thing. I need that number to come down. I don't want it to come up. I want it to stay down. What am I looking for? I want the frequency. My frequency will pull energy out. You see, I do a test with multiple Tesla coils. I put one here and I put another one right here. Just the number 2 winding. I don't have anything connected to it. All my connections are here. Okay? That right here is my circuit. This is my circuit right here. This has absolutely none of it. None. What am I trying to do? Trying to move the frequency over to here to create power. Why? Because I know how to step it down. We had just talked in the beginning about the can. This can steps it right down. It's exactly what it's going to do. Usable power. Now, here's what you may not know about this thing. The Tesla coil ring. It goes like this. And when it comes back, it shoots up. It's putting out a field at distance. So let's draw this a little better. That's the way it's run. From the bottom of your Tesla coil up. Understand that when I do this, I'm truly beginning to make this. This is this. This is what your oscilloscope shows. This is what it's doing in real life. It's flowing around like a tornado. But this is what you see on your oscilloscope. You see the ring. Now, each one of these is a different distance. You say, well, hold on, hold on. There's a word for that. That's a scalar field. I have a difference in my frequency at each one. I have a difference in my temperature at each one. How do I know that? Because when I go to light up a light bulb, I'm exciting the gas. I'm creating heat to excite the gas. At different stages, my temperature changes because my amperage or so-called amperage is in there and changes. So it's so-called because I'm not convinced there's a ton of amps in any of this. So, we know that. What is the one thing that nobody understands about this? If I told you this is how your harmonics build. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth harmonic. And it goes out. You are literally building your harmonic scale in your Tesla coil. You see, that's why it's working like it does. You go, well, I get more energy at the higher scale. Well, yeah, well, when you get up beyond 6, you're going to start hitting massive energy scales, right? But you got to get there first. You have to understand why it's doing it. Every single time you hit one of these, you're at a different harmonic scale. I guarantee you a lot of you out there do not understand this. Harmonics is one of the most powerful things in this universe. You tell me about volts, you could tell me about amps, you could tell me about radiant energy. You can tell me about the sun. I'm going to tell you, harmonics is extremely powerful. You just have to understand how to use them. You see, that's why I dig into Tesla and find out when you take one Tesla coil and you put one next to it that has absolutely zero hookups to it. And yet I'm pulling plasma out of it. You see, I'm going through all the harmonics in that secondary winding that's connected to nothing. And then I'm creating plasma coming out the top. There's a lot of power in here. Now, is it usable? I get a lot of people ask me, you're creating plasma, but is it usable? Is it just a sparkler? Well, yeah, it's usable. What do you have to understand in your circuit? You have to create a block, a stopping point. You see, let me explain it in this way. My rodent coil is a stopping point for my frequency. Once I connect this in the system, my frequency of my Tesla coil here, it stops changing. You see, anytime you put a rod down the center and connect it to something, the frequency of your coil will change where the resonance value is. This stops that. It stops it dead in its tracks. So when I take a number 2 coil and I have it connected, I need to create that same break. But I must compensate for that in the system. Anytime that I add that to the system, I need to compensate because the amount of copper in that coil changes. You see, I'm changing the capacitance in it. When you change the capacitance in it, you're changing the frequency. Therefore, you must absolutely 100% compensate for it. Then run whatever you need to. You have to create that wall. You need that frequency to stop changing. You need to be very consistent. Then, you can go off and change all the rest. You can pull the energy out however you want. That's what Tesla did. But Tesla understood something that I don't think everybody does. You see, he knew full well, you cannot take this Tesla coil, no matter how big, and run the radiant energy field out here and power everything. It's not going to work. Never was. He knew he couldn't get it to work. This out here is energy lost, even if the source is continuously pumping it in. Because it starts to change things it interacts with. You see, it gets into everything. You go, well, what do you mean? If I put this can anywhere near it, the RF on it heats this thing up. It'll burn your finger. But it's actually cold. Well, that's what radiant energy does. It's going to build out a field like that. So putting towers up and creating wireless power, we see all these airships and oh, your house is over here and your boat's over here and it's getting all this energy from the outside of this coil. Well, it's just a lie. It's a flat out lie. How was Tesla doing it? Well, see, this is why I told you it's a Colorado experiment. You see, this Tesla coil, you put the rod down the center and you put it into the earth. The earth can handle the radiant field. Now, when you touch your light bulb to the earth, now you're getting energy. You see, Tesla never intended it to go through the air. He knew it was a loss. But through the earth is a different story. That's why he put the light bulb in the ground, and he didn't stand around waving it in the air. He already knew better. I tried to tell you that when I tried to tell you about the one-wire energy. Tesla never intended it for it to go through the air. He couldn't. He knew the losses were too high, the fields were too bad, and it would create a radiant energy field to be bad for people. As soon as he created the hairpin circuit, he stopped all that in its tracks. He knew he had found the correct field. Now, he put the rod through the center, or created the hairpin circuit, however you want to see it. It's more efficient by putting the rod down the center. Do you think he knew it? Look at Wardenclyffe again. Put it right into the earth. Now you can put as much wire winding in there to stop the frequency from changing. Now the radiant energy goes from here to saturate the earth itself. That's what he was trying to do. See, we already have a radiant energy field underneath our feet. That's what I've been trying to explore with Tesla. It's already there. He needed to change the geometry of coils in order to tap into it. I'll tell you about Sean's coil. Sean created the coil they called the Death Star. Here's the plasma coming out of it right here, right? Here's what he says about it. This plasma doesn't hurt. Yeah, well, hold on. That doesn't sound right. If we create a Tesla coil, and I created voltage coming out the top, say, well, that hurt. Yeah, I understand. What did he do different? He flipped that field. That rod down the center of the Tesla coil, he already made the conversion. Now, he's getting negative radiant energy. This is positive. You see, he already inverted the field. So I call it a field inversion. I don't call it static electricity or anything else, because you have to invert the field in order to get this. What did he do? This is your ground, right here. Got it on a stand apparently. So let's draw the stand so nobody gets confused. Okay, ugly stand. Took a rod, right here, connected to that rod, brought it right here. Now, I guarantee you everybody said, well, this field right here pushed towards this field. No. This way, not a chance. Went this way. This energy pushed out to this one. You knew he was in negative energy. You see, our Earth this field up here, positive, underneath where we stand here is negative. He created something negative, so when he puts it in there, it blasted towards there. And it didn't just do that. There was a lot of amps in it. You know how you know you got a lot of amps in voltage? It's white. You want to know how you get less amps in voltage? It turns to a purple. They're pretty simple. It goes through a different colors for every amount of amperage that you put into the system. It'll change the color like the rainbow without any trouble. It'll create light all day long. Should probably tell you something about light. But anyway, he shot it. It came out to here. Now, he also took geode right here. You've probably seen him. Little rock comes out here. Got crystals coming out. Sorry about draw a bad crystal. This energy attacked that energy. Like energies attack each other. My understanding of this is this geode right here may be the original source of energy in the planet. Not a molten core, not anything else like that. Geodes. That energy that's in them might be exactly what we're looking for. That's why it's so interesting. Negative energy, not positive. We're looking for negative radiant energy. This is that other side of physics that they don't want to acknowledge. This is why they don't have all the answers. This one side, this just little bit of understanding I give you today, is why they don't understand it all. It's not that hard, not complicated. It's very simple. I explain it in regular terms. You see, when you start understanding this, you understand why Tesla understood the things that he did. He disagreed with a lot of them in their terminology. I know a lot of people use terminology that's not applied to Tesla. He absolutely hated their terminology because he didn't think it was right. Everybody had to find Tesla by their terminology, not by Tesla's. Guys, you have a big misunderstanding of what things and how they're working. I'm trying to clarify that right here. All of these things that I talk about in this energy, why does it amplify? Why does it multiply? Why do everybody who comes out with every one of these over Unity devices have the same answer? Why do they all say negative energy, cold electricity, negative radiant energy? Why? There's something there you're not looking to. You refuse to look at it. You define things in positive energy terms and you fail. I'm not trying to fail. I'm trying to succeed. And to do that, I must understand it the exact way Tesla did. That's why I keep building things that Tesla built. He knew more than all of us combined. Let's just face it. Every one of these terminologies you put out there, every one of these formulas, you don't account for this and it ruins your system. I'll give you a perfect example. This right here drives me absolutely up the wall. If my voltage is up here, my amperage is down here, okay? So we'll say 2 amps, 100 volts. Okay, pretty simple, right? Got a lot of voltage here, little amount of amperage here. This will have a particular frequency attached to it. Now, it'll also have a particular temperature. Now, if I want this number to go up, I must increase the temperature and decrease the frequency. So this one will go up, this one goes down. As I do that, I can now make this to be this number and that number. I am simply playing with the temperature and frequency in the system because that other field is not magnetic, it's scalar. Because it's scalar, it builds like scalar in this very particular way. Temperature and frequency work together to create your voltage and amperage. This field must work with this field. Where is my magnetic field? In between this one and this one, that's my magnetic field right there. It requires voltage and amperage to create a magnetic field. That magnetic field is also your static field. How do I know that? Because I still have a very small amount of amperage with a very high amount of voltage to create static. It still is going to require both. But this amperage field is not a magnetic field. It is a scalar field. It builds out with temperature and frequency. Let me tell you why most experiments fail. If you don't understand that, your results are going to be screwed up every time. You're going to allow heat in your system in a very weird way. You're going to say, I have this tube structure and I'm trying to take out the energy in it. I'm trying to eliminate all the variables. It didn't account for the energy in the room or the heat process in the room. Therefore, the outside took on a little more heat to it. Now I'm getting voltage fluctuations. You know where else you get voltage fluctuations? Try creating an AC flyback without putting in mineral oil and taking out all the little bubbles. Every single bubble that has air in it, it's going to give you a fluctuation in that transformer. It's the variables that ruin your project. You think you took them all out? You didn't. You see, as I create heat, I'm creating amps. I'm creating the amps in the system. Now, it's not a lot. It's not the same way that you're turning dials to create this stuff. I can create 1 to 2 amps in there. What does that do for your whole system? It ruins your frequency completely. Because every time that I create more amps, my frequency plummets. It goes way down. So does my voltage. So you're going to see a dip right there already. Something you didn't account for, but it is right in front of you because you did not understand that heat plays a major part in your system. So does the cold. That's why I'm doing these things right here to show you guys this. The hot and cold, hot and cold. This is how you control your system. It's not just about voltage and amperage. Your hot and cold play a part in this. They will ruin every one of your projects completely when you don't account for them. They always tell you about a cold, controlled environment. Well, it's because somebody somewhere knew that heat and cold affect your system and will change your voltage and amperage all day. If you understand that, then you can manipulate them to do that for you. See, it's a reverse. If they destroy your system because you didn't account for them, but now you start accounting for them, now it can amplify your system. Hey, why do I need to bring in extra heat into my system and amps when I can pull it right out of the air? I don't know. Why not? If I bring a coil like this and I drop the temperature of it by 5 degrees, the energy stays in the coil for a while until that 5 degrees gets back up to room temperature. I've done the test. It's on my channel. Very simple way to understand energy. The temperature plays a big part in how you do this. You say, well, hold on. If it stays in there, it means you captured the energy. Well, yeah. May change that coil into a little bit of a capacitor. Maybe not in the conventional capacitor sense, but it stays in there. You say, well, but then you put more energy into it. Are you building on top of that? Well, now we get to the good part of the story, aren't we? Isn't that where we wanted to go in the beginning when we start talking about over unity? When we start talking about 0 point? Guys, you can't build 0 point fields at losses. It has to be gaining energy, not losses. So where do we go? We go to the cold side of energy, where we can now gain energy and hold it in and continuously gain on top of it. With hot energy, you're already at a loss. You've already failed. You have absolutely failed. You cannot brute force way through this. It will not work. You must create the cold energy, because as it gets a little bit colder, the energy stays into it. Now you can start the accumulation process. I know this is going to be hard for you to understand this. Hopefully you guys get it. Hopefully you'll start to see what I'm looking at here. Hopefully you could take a few of these tips and use them. Guys, this is how energy is working. This is what physics needs. They absolutely refuse to have it. I hear more people tell me all the time, negative energy doesn't work, there's no such thing, we can't create it. Guys, over unity has been in front of us for hundreds of years, right in front of our face. And matter of fact, it's screaming at us, laughing at us, because we don't understand the cold side of energy. There are very few people who do. For those who do, they make over unity devices. I sincerely hope that this video gets you to understand there's another side to this which is way more powerful. Tesla knew it, we should know it. Anyway, guys, I hope you have yourself a great day. Thank you. Before we get out of here, I just want to let you guys know that I offer memberships on my channel now. It's a really cool thing. I do behind the scenes stuff. I give you more information. I also put things out early on it. All of my Fringe Think Tank Star Trek episodes will be on there. I just put out another one, a number 7 episode. Also, you're going to get emojis on there that you can use in the live chats. They're pretty cool. And as we grow our membership, I'll be able to put more emojis out there. Just a fun way to liven up the chat a little bit. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, and have yourself a great day. Thank you very much.